morbidity factors, right? So if you're morbidly obese, you get a debit. If you have type 2 diabetes, you get a debit. If you have hypertension, you get a debit. But if you're a morbidly obese, hypertensive, diabetic, now you put all these into the same body. We know that this is not a 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. It's 1 + 1 + 1 = 10, right? These are called comorbidity factors, and they're cumulative. And so they accelerate mortality. We know things like the trajectory of certain pharmaceuticals, right? I mean, we know that modern medicine, according to a 2018 Johns Hopkins study and Harvard study, that modern medicine is the practice of medicine. Medical error is the third leading cause of death in America. So it's astounding when you think that modern medicine and medical error is the third leading cause of death. I mean, only cancer and cardiovascular disease kill more people than modern medicine. They kill more people than morbid obesity and diabetes combined.
So I guess what you're saying is are you saying doctors or big pharma?
Well, I'm saying modern medicine, which includes physicians and big pharma, but it's driven, a lot of it's driven.
I know there's a lot of distrust about modern medicine.
Well, I mean, look at the industry of disease. I mean, in the United States, diabetes alone, type 2 diabetes is a $110 billion annual industry. So if you think there's boardroom meetings going on right now to try to put that out of business, you're crazy. And for a long period of time, I used to say, well, if you were, a client of mine and you said, Gary, write me a diet that would guarantee I would get diabetes, I used to take you right to the American Diabetic Association website and show you dietary guidelines for people that can't regulate blood sugar. But my whole point is not to attack modern medicine. My point is that we know that that medical error misdiagnoses is common. What insurance companies knew was the consequences for these misdiagnoses. So for example, if you have a clinical deficiency in the vitamin D3, if you have a clinical deficiency in D3 for long enough, you will present with rheumatoid arthritis-like symptoms. Now, you don't have rheumatoid arthritis, but you have the very same symptoms. You're stiff and achy when you wake up in the morning. The soles of your feet and your ankles hurt when you get out of bed first thing in the morning. You get stiff across the hips and shoulders, and eventually it becomes hard to make a fist. If you walk into the wrong doctor's office and start to explain that symptomology, the doctor's going to go, you know what, Eric, you've got rheumatoid arthritis. I'm going to hit you with some high-dose prednisone. I'm going to start you on something called a corticosteroid. And initially, these things are anti-inflammatory. But we knew in the life insurance industry that if you started corticosteroids, you had 6 years and 1 day until you were having a joint replacement. So that meant that I would artificially, if you were a 60-year-old male, I would artificially advance your age 6 years to age 66. I would schedule the joint replacement, right? Even though you're only 60, I would schedule it for your 66th birthday. And then I would begin to reduce what was called your ambulatory profile, how well you ambulate, how well you move. And as I reduced your mobility, I would bring in all the diseases that exacerbate with reduced mobility. And so as I bring in diseases that would exacerbate with reduced mobility, I could not only predict the onset of, but the severity of disease and how quickly you would succumb to it. So if you think about a scenario where somebody's body is just deficient in a basic raw material, vitamin D3, the sunshine vitamin, the only vitamin human beings can make on our own, right? Arguably the single most important compound in the human body. You deplete this nutrient from human beings. They present with a condition they don't have. They're diagnosed with a disease that they do not have. They're put on a medication that's not required, which causes them to have a joint replacement that they never needed, which reduces their ability to be mobile, which brought diseases forward that they never would have had. And they end up succumbing to a disease early because of a misdiagnosis of a single missing raw material in the human body.
Crazy. So